Hello, everyone. Welcome to Donna's Happy Hour. We are ready to rock and roll into the fourth season, and I have with me today Nick Pappalardo. Nick had joined me at the beginning of our third season, and since that time, he has been busy in the studio trying to finish up his album. So he will be playing some original music today. So grab your drinks, whatever they may be, because I'm hoping you'll spend the next hour with me.
Hello there, my name is Nick Pappalardo, and I'm a jazz guitarist, and I'm going to bring you some originals today from a new album called One of a Kind. And yeah, hope you like them.
You made it back.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
I have to tell the audience, it was so, well, it's funny, but it's not. Because of COVID and just life in general and schedules, we have been actually trying to shoot this episode for months now. And we finally got to do it today, and I'm so glad. I do also want to say to the audience, because I know this has been really almost like, 2 years of going into COVID and dealing with the pandemic, and I hope that everyone has fared through the storm well. You know, my heart goes out to anybody that has lost anyone or has lost their jobs. But hang in there, you know, things are getting better, as we all know. So, Nick, tell me, I know that you've been spending a lot of time in the studio, right?
Yeah, so it's actually been several different studios that I've been working at. And the nice thing is with this day and age, we can kind of send files back and forth, and if musicians aren't always present in the room,
Right.
they could still be reached.
Okay,
And
interesting.
that especially comes in handy when you're dealing with drummers
Right.
and just really anybody that's a little bit farther out.
Right.
I have to say, I was working on demos at my home studio.
Okay.
And that kind of set the foundation for everything. And then
Everything.
I
Oh,
was
wow,
able
interesting.
to give everybody notes, and at least to those that I was sending files to. And
Right.
then that made it a little bit more of a collective experience and a more enjoyable experience, especially when you can map out and tell the musicians what you're looking for.
Now, do you do a lot of Zooming with that sort of thing?
Yeah, actually, Zoom's been very helpful in that sense because there's something with that interaction where you need to pick up on the nuances of whatever the artist is trying to come
Right.
across and give guidance to, especially when letting the other musicians know what choices to make,
Right.
or if there are choices to be made. A lot of times it could be even just make it up off the spot, or what they
right.
call improvisation.
Right. Well, I was going to, now, do you have it with Zoom? Is it just that you can you see multiple people at one time?
Yeah,
That's
that's the
fantastic.
beauty of using Zoom. You can collaborate with one person, or you could do it with many
Right.
people. A lot of times when it comes to, with each song, there's kind of a different characteristic to it. So sometimes you may want to get across, or you may want to be a little bit more specific with certain musicians.
Right.
So there I kind of ended up doing more single Zoom meetings,
Right.
as opposed to having groups.
Right.
But I have to say, having Zoom has been very
Has been-
helpful with giving guidance.
I would think so. It may, when I'm not doing this, I actually watch a lot of documentaries on music, and I find it very interesting to see how all the artists tend to work. And what works best for them.
Right.
And to me, having Zoom seemed like it would be a really smart thing to have.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely. It's definitely, there's one thing with, and I think it comes across when you're trying to tell musicians maybe to be a little bit more risk-taking.
Right.
And to really just be more improvisational. You can kind of convey that in your notes, but when there's certain parts that you want in songs, you want to bring out certain accents and stuff like that.
Right.
I think having that meeting, the visual,
right.
to kind of convey the idea a little bit better,
Right.
Is really helpful.
I would imagine that at that time, you're sitting there and you've got your instrument in front of you that, let's say you're playing, and you can give them an idea, well, maybe we can follow this, or we can,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if you hit on something, you can actually go back, right?
Right.
And are you recording it at the same time?
So when it comes to Zoom, I don't record any of the meetings.
Okay.
But there is that chance where you can demonstrate in front of the
Okay.
person that you're meeting with.
Right.
If I have an idea that I want to do, I can simply
Right.
take a guitar or a piano and play it for them.
Right.
They do have the opportunity on Zoom to record it if they'd
Record it.
like. So it's a good
think-
idea.
Yeah, I was thinking of that because if let's say you sit there and you go, wow, this was good, but you didn't record it. But if you had it recorded, then you can go back and go,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great tool. I mean, nowadays, all the electronics and everything it's really coming so far.
For sure.
And even just like, I got these new mics, wireless mics, and all of that is just really amazing
It is.
things, you know. So,
Absolutely.
All right. And this next one's called If I Sing. Next one's called Far Out. Here's some funky jazz for you.
So tell me now, I know that when I last saw you working on the album and you're just kind of wrapping that up, is that where you're at this stage now?
Yeah, so there's going to be about 10 songs on the album that
Oh,
I'm
wow.
going to end up releasing. And I think last time we talked, we were kind of wrapping things up. A lot of stuff comes down to, in the end, with production, and I think the thing that a lot of artists tend to fall into is knowing, okay, when to walk away from it, when to kind of.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's always more ideas that you could come up with and add on top. But I think the more and more I start listening and writing music, the more and more you appreciate the simplicity of ideas and just keeping it simple.
It's true. It really is true. It's like I used to paint, and sometimes you'd sit there and you'd think, well, maybe I need to do a little bit more, and then you have to know when to walk away from it.
Exactly.
And that's actually, I've heard several people that let's say write songs, and I'll have heard, let's say, the original song, and then I'll hear it a couple months later, and I'll hear that it was a little different, and I'll sit there and I'll in my own mind I'll say to myself, I think it was best when it was left, and that's just the nature of the beast, I mean, I think that we're all so critical of our own work that, we're like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're our own worst enemies sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
So.
I think, it's definitely, with nowadays, it's so easy to replicate instruments too in music programs that it's almost like you were mentioning painting, where you have this color palette to use, and it's very tempting to use all the colors.
And that's exactly true.
So it's almost an artistic choice to walk away from it at some point.
Yeah, so, and you do have to know when to do that. It was interesting, I watched, again, a music documentary the other night, and I found it fascinating when I see these artists, basically creating, and they're at the soundboard, and just even the sound man is so important. I mean, it just amazes me.
Yeah.
And even when you have, let's say, somebody producing your album, and how much influence and what they can bring to the table.
Absolutely.
To make that album the best it can be.
It's like another songwriter practically.
It is, and most of what I've seen is most of the producers of albums were musicians and writers at one time, and that's why they can bring so much to the table, because they did it.
Yeah, I always like to think of it, the artist is giving what they think is the maximum potential of the song, and they present it to the producer, and the producer says, "That's great. Now let's make it
greater."
10 times better.
Exactly. Right.
So it's integral to the team to get that outside perspective.
And when you have the right combination, producer, sound, all of that, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think recording quality too has come a long way since back in the day, but it's always having a good sound engineer is key, because they can pick up on the little nuances and the different frequencies that are in that live room or
Right.
wherever in the studio they're recording.
It's mind blowing, you know, and so like I said, you know, I'm addicted now to watching these documentaries because I'm learning a lot.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
something that I never really studied before, and I just really find it so fascinating.
Yeah.
And I honestly never gave it much thought as to the producer of an album. I'm thinking, okay, he's the producer. I
Yeah.
never thought that it went much further
Much
than
further.
that.
Yeah.
But
That's the
you know,
magic.
now
Yeah.
maybe there are some producers that strictly just produce and let everybody else, you know, but from everything that I can see,
Right.
you're really best off if you have a producer that can also guide you.
Yeah.
You know, not try to take over because then the artist loses out, I would imagine, on that.
Yeah,
you know.
it's interesting. I was just working with a new band, Monarch, and we started doing, it's almost like indie music, and we actually, when I was working with the musicians, we were actually so they presented the song, and we were listening to the song. It was great as it was, but then there's sections where we could say, let's add in a harmony here, and let's stack maybe a couple more harmonies on top, and let's add an electric guitar here. Let's hold off on the chorus here and put another section in to build it up. So you can almost become, you can control the dynamics of the song, which will keep the listener interested, and make it seem almost like a story, because that's in the end, it's like a story.
That's true. Yeah, it was really amazing when, as I said in this documentary, they were saying how this one particular artist liked to give the other artists that he was having come on his album pretty much kind of free rein to let them become creative and to, you know, but yet they knew once they heard what he was kind of doing, they knew where to aim.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I think you can definitely pick up on certain vibes of the songs, because if, you know, one song's like it's a dance song, you're gonna want to keep that energy up because you want to get people moving. So if you can kind of give directions to musicians, and a lot of times I always find this happens the most with drummers, where they can literally change the entire song like that. Just depending on the grooves and the accents that they choose.
Right.
And it could take a song from here and it could take it totally way out. And it's great because, you know, maybe that's something, you're taking that song and you're giving it almost a new life.
Right. One of the things that I had noticed is, with watching the documentaries again, was I found it very interesting when they would go in to, let's say, record another album or a new album, how nowadays it seems like they don't always necessarily stick with the same drummer, or they stick with the same bass player. They will deviate to be able to get the sound that they're looking for. Like, they're already saying, okay, I know this musician and he'll be great for this part.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot like Steely Dan, because back in the 70s, especially on like their Asia album, they were known to use session musicians. So one band, you know, one group of session musicians could come in one day and be completely replaced the next day.
Right.
So each musician really brings, it comes back to the color palette idea. Each musician really brings their own style And
Right.
it's like it's really like it's everybody speaking the same language, just a different dialect, and it gives you a different perspective on music, which you can learn so much from.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I like the terminology that it's really the color palette and that you're speaking the same dialogue,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
all bringing their unique abilities
Yeah.
to the platform.
Absolutely.
And I really, I do. I find it so fascinating, and I am learning, really. I love the fact that there's all these documentaries out there now, you know. And just to see the way that each artist brings his talent, and then how it kind of, you know, it's kind of like a tree with the roots growing and how it affects the next musician. And,
Absolutely.
and it's totally mind-boggling to me, you know.
A lot of the musicians that I've had on my album, and I know this definitely, like I said, with drummers, but you can really change the entire dynamic of a song depending on who you bring in
right.
and how you convey your idea and your visions.
Right.
But it's definitely a really cool thing because you can, it kind of changes your perspective when you go to write another song. Maybe you'd be more likely to think like how they thought, you know,
Right.
when they were attempting.
Well, that's the thing, and or when you're doing, let's say, you're going for your next album, and you had so and so in the studio, and you had this one in the studio, and I would imagine at some point that, you know, you get to a certain stage and you're like, you know what, I know exactly who I need to come into the studio for this and to obtain whatever you know is in your head that you want to obtain for that album.
Yeah, this is something that I picked up to recently is, so now when I'm assembling like a group of musicians, a lot of it is not strictly based on talent. It's based on their personalities. If I think
right.
that everybody's kind of has a similar mindset in terms of maybe they're a little bit more relaxed, they have the skill to kind of feel relaxed.
Right.
Then that creates a different atmosphere for each musician. And even
Right.
if somebody maybe say plays jazz and I have somebody else who plays, say, just pop music,
Right.
even though they are different styles and everything like that, and maybe they have different abilities, if the energy is kind of, it's a little bit more relaxed and more fun,
Right.
I find that it brings out the best in each musician.
right.
So it doesn't always come down to the talent, it comes down to their personalities.
It comes down to, I would imagine that it's really a combination. Like you said, you're learning being in the studio
Right.
of what you know, and I think that makes perfect sense,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
All right. This next one is called Lost in Tangier. Sun and Moon.
Do you, when you're writing, do you find, like, as you're writing, do the musicians come to you at that point? Or is it strictly, you're just strictly writing and at later date comes, like, who you think?
That's it. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it usually comes, so it's interesting because it's half and half actually.
Okay.
I have a couple friends, Zach Rapone, who's an audio engineer, and he's based out of Philly now. He recently reached out to me and actually asked to put together almost like a trio format, and he wanted to bring in another musician, Sydney Skazana, who I've worked with in the past as well, and we've played together for quite some time. And you know, he said, I want to kind of just write good music. It doesn't matter what genre it is, but just to kind of see what comes out. So this is kind of, it was more planning for the future, and when the time comes when we meet up in the studio, then that's how it's, you know, whatever comes about is it. But I've also noticed that when I'm writing, like, let's say for my album, I find that a lot of the songs have, I've written ideas, and then I would say, okay, maybe so and so would sound good on this. Let's bring them in. And then if I would send them the song, they would say, hey, you know, what do you think about this? Let me try adding this in. And then it's definitely, I've experienced a little bit of both, where the idea eventually creates itself, and then a lot of times the idea was just from the start, and I'm like, this person would sound great on this.
Right. Now, my next question is, so having gone into the studio, doing your album, did you find, or do you find that it's taking longer than you thought?
Especially lately with COVID and everything, it's been very hard. Also, I've been fortunate enough to have plenty of gigs lined up where it's kept me busy every weekend. So I have to be really organized with my time. So, between everything, it's been. It's definitely taken a bit longer, but which is fine because sometimes you need that patience, and you know, maybe something comes along the lines where you're like, maybe I could tack on another song, or maybe I can just maybe I could save more time for marketing and other things, pitching it to labels and whatnot. So
I would think that you know, when you're going into an album, I'm sure every album is different, you know, like the time span, you know, sometimes maybe one album may fall into place really easily, and another album you're kind of struggling along to get exactly what, you know, because do you hear it in your mind? Like, do you hear what you're hoping the final product will be? On any particular song, you know.
Yeah, a lot of the songs that come about, I usually hear in my mind first, and I try to almost develop it in my mind without even touching anything, you know, touching paper or even getting recorded. It needs to be, it needs to have like an idea, or it needs to have a movement. It wants to go somewhere.
Right. Okay.
So it can't. It ends up a lot of times just kind of developing itself, and it also comes back to patience, where you need to be patient. You can't force. It's almost like Zen in a way, but I think the more and more you write, you kind of develop your own style for songwriting, and that definitely ties in to mine, where I'm big on visualization, and also that comes into just hearing things and developing it in your mind. Anytime you find a new song, it might spark a new idea or something like that, and that takes time to
develop it. Now, I know your dad plays drums, and he's in a band. Now, did your dad write? Was he a songwriter? Or?
I think he wrote. He had a band back in the '80s that I think he ended up writing a song for. But I know he's mainly. He usually is presented with the music first, and then he'll kind of develop his own style for it.
So everything that you've learned, pretty much, you've learned due to trial and error, or being in the studio. Now, you started in the studio because, I don't know how many people in the audience know this, but it's rare when you find young musicians doing studio work. Am I right about that, or is that changing also?
I think it's, and the music industry is always changing. I think now you're starting to find a lot younger musicians putting out material. However, you still have a lot of times people want to use those that have had a lot of experience and everything like that. So I guess it kind of varies, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I learned my my whole method is just through trial and error, and just being there in the studio and speaking, hearing everybody's dialects, you know. It's just, that's how you learn. I think that's the best way. You can only study something, or you can only read about something for so long.
You have to apply it. Yes, you do. So, obviously, then being on stage and playing is totally different than studio work.
I think so, and I know there's a lot of talk about this topic, because there is something in the live. I think the audience plays a big role in the music. It's almost, it's hard to put it into words, but when you're playing live, you can, number one, you know the moments not going to repeat itself. This is happening whether you know it,
That's
whether
true,
you're ready
right,
for it or
right,
not.
That's right, yeah.
So, and a lot of times when you're playing live, you react to other musicians in the moment.
Right.
And
the
that's the music.
audience's energy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that,
part of the music.
oh, it's absolutely, and it can, and that's why, it's very interesting when the audience is really riled and psyched and like
You can feed off
you
of
can
that.
feed off of that. And of course, that makes your performance even better
Right.
because everybody is feeding off of everyone, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
There's nothing like it, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a couple jazz bands in the city, and one of them was Arturo Sandoval, and he
Oh,
was
wow.
he actually played trumpet, and he was a protege of Dizzy Gillespie, who was
Oh, wow, no kidding.
And I was shocked by how engaging the audience was.
Right.
And they would react to the lines that he would play
Right.
in each song, and it was just,
Wow.
it was very interesting because they were essentially part of the music. It was without them. I mean, it was great music, but it was just very interesting because I've never thought about that before. That
Right.
the audience plays a
Right.
very big role.
They really can and do.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure we've all had this where, you have an audience and it's like, are you dead? Like, could you at least,
Those were, yeah, that was like the beginning days where, you play to like 5 people or 6
Right,
people, and it's
right.
like, but I think the key is to make the best of any scenario.
You have to.
If it's those 5 people, then make sure that it matters to those 5 people.
That's very true. That's right. You really do have to make the best out of any moment. And one of the other things that, of course, again, this is with something live, is that now it's different, let's say, with your band that's playing cover music.
Right.
Because with cover music, you may say, well, I have this certain set that I'm going to play. And then maybe the audience really isn't into that particular, they were hoping you're going to play some, so you can change it, and redirect.
Right.
And then maybe hopefully get the audience to be engaged.
Yeah.
When you're playing your own music, I would imagine also that you have to think about the order in which you want like each song.
It's a very interesting thing because I started thinking about this when it came to releasing my first album, Impressions, and that was the first time that I really thought about, okay, the order actually does matter because you don't want to put songs that are in the same key back to back all
Right.
the time because it produces a sameness
Right.
effect.
Right.
And you want each one to stick out from the other, and you also want the entire album to be refreshing from
Right.
beginning to
Right,
end.
right.
And the same thing for live.
Right, right.
You want it to be refreshing. So
Right.
the order does matter. And I've read lots of books about one of my favorite bands, Yes. When it came to recording a few of the albums, they would have falling outs with each other, and they would get into huge arguments about orders of songs.
Oh, really? Oh,
And
wow.
it's not something like the average person thinks about,
Right.
but I guess the more and more you think about it,
right.
it does
It
play a
does
big
matter.
role.
I know when I'm listening to an album, I will sit there and go, I think they should have maybe changed the order a bit. Who am I to really say? But if I'm thinking that way, then I know that the artist should be thinking that way.
Of course.
It's to me, and one of the things that I think you need the good starting song, a good ending song, You know, but like you said, you really have to think about everything in between, because if you have everything that's kind of like the same tone, and there's no upbeat.
Yeah, there's no dynamic
then the
to the-
person kind of gets you know, it's
Yeah.
just natural.
Yeah.
Even though the person may not be aware of it,
Right.
it's happening.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because now this is your second album, or
Correct.
Okay, your first album is called Impressions.
Impressions, yeah.
Do you have a name for the second album?
So the second album is going to be called One of a Kind.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
that.
So I don't remember. I think I got it. I got the inspiration when I was at a casino in Atlantic City, and I was like, I don't remember where I heard it, but I was like, that'd be a great name for an album. And
I like it.
It's kind of funny
Yes.
because like in just everyday events, you know, sometimes you find creativity within that. So,
Right. I like
that's
that.
how it kind of came about.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, because I always wonder where the names come from, and usually it is like something that they heard, overheard somewhere, just like a little clip of somebody talking.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And what about the artwork for your album?
So it's going to be very reminiscent of the '70s disco albums. So
Oh.
it's going to be very minimalistic
Okay.
in a sense. It's going to have the title. It'll have my name, and then it's just going to be a picture of me with
Okay.
just a colored background.
Okay.
So yeah, which is I think. Back in the '70s, a lot of the albums were, at least I know a lot of the disco albums, they had that very
They did.
minimalistic
Yes,
kind
they did.
of
Yeah, usually the
sense.
person, let's say if it was just the lead singer.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And that makes sense. But also it makes sense that you would do it that way because it's one of a kind.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the other thing I love to, and again, it's so important, the album cover. You want that to catch
You want to
somebody.
follow the idea,
Yes,
whatever
yeah.
it may be. Yeah, you want to take it and you want to make sure everything's consistent with each other and make sure it's
that it's
convincing.
all working, and also it's important because colors, certain colors evoke.
Yeah, they depict the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, there's a lot to it. You don't think that there is, but really there is.
For sure.
So tell me about now. So where are you playing, in case anybody, is in the area?
So I've been playing, actually I just played with a few bands, but so I'll be playing with Monarch in Newburgh at a place called Craft Draft. And that's going to be in November. I believe it's the second to last week of November.
All
It's on
right.
that Saturday. So I'll be there, and then I'll also be actually playing with the Mugshots as well, December 4th. I think that's a Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And that's going to be here at the Blue Arrow, so
Oh,
that'll
then
be
I'm coming.
a lot of fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
please remind me.
Yeah.
You have to catch it, because Blue Arrow in Pine Island, New York. Go on Facebook, you can find them. December 4th. Oh, that will be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm
oh,
looking
I'm looking
forward to it.
to that. Great. And so if anybody needed to contact you, because you also play solo gigs, right?
Yeah, I do jazz, I do singer-songwriter, pop music, basically A to Z.
A to Z, okay.
So, yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
so.
And it's
So you can go to Facebook, it's Nick Pappalardo Music, and then we have Instagram, it's @, then it's Nick Paps 95,
Okay.
NICKPAPS 95.
okay, good. It's funny because when we were trying to hook up here, I think the last time I had to cancel, if I'm not mistaken, because we've made the date and then had to cancel. But the last time, I think I fell and I was having a tooth problem. I was a mess, but I fell. You want to talk about funny or not? Well, it was funny because I didn't get really hurt, but I was helping my husband and we had all these PVC tubes lined up outside. And I was working very hard and kind of tired. And he asked me to get something, and I, got up and I went to step over all these PVC tubes, and sure enough, I didn't make it. My little short legs didn't make it. And you ever see the cartoons where somebody threw marbles and the person's like, ah! And there I am, my arms are flannel. I almost managed to catch myself, but didn't land it. And, now I'm waiting for my husband to, kind of like respond. And I thought I heard, ding dong, the witch is dead.
Oh my.
No.
Oh my.
And then finally he comes over and he goes, "Are you still alive?" No, he didn't say that. But so that was why I had to cancel. I had bashed up my knee, and so. But here we are. I'm so glad we were able to finally do this, and you're going to love his album. And I actually have to, maybe you've played some of the songs when you were on season 3 from Impressions. I'm not really sure, or it might have been improv. I can't,
Yeah.
it might have been a little of both.
Yeah, I think it was a mix of both. Yeah.
So I'm going to have to look up improv.
Impressions. Which
Impressions,
is,
okay, Impressions,
you
okay.
can find that on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, really any.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'm going to have to go listen to it. So hopefully, when do you think the new album will come out?
So I'm hoping the beginning of 2021, January 2021. So that'll be
22.
22, actually. Yeah, that's right, 2022. See how crazy it's been? Years
it has
flown
been really crazy.
But hopefully, I'm aiming for the beginning of 2022, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited, hoping everybody's gonna like what they hear.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I know they will. I can't wait for it to come out. Again, he'll be playing at Blue Arrow Farm in Pine Island, New York, December 4th.
Right.
That's
I think that's a Saturday. Yeah.
Saturday evening?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So we'll be starting, I believe we start at 8.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, they can
just be,
they can look it up at just like I said, Blue Arrow Facebook, and you're also playing in Newburgh, and that's
Craft Draft. So that's going to be that's the second to last week of November. I believe that's the 22nd, 23rd, something like that.
Okay.
But I'll be posting that on my social media accounts, so you can definitely check that out for more info.
Okay.
But that's up in Newburgh at Craft Draft, and that's with the band Monarch. So we're doing original music, and we're doing some covers, and it's just going to be a fun time.
I will try to make that. I would like to. Well, maybe we can get Monarch.
Yeah.
Do they do original music?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We definitely have to get you with them.
That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All
Let's
right.
do
Please,
it.
please. How many musicians are in that?
Well, right now it's
20.
just imagine. Right now it's just the 3 of us. So it's me, it's Johnny Lou, and we also have Sarah, which is actually she's our singer, and she's kind of been providing us with the whole direction of where she wants to take the band.
Okay.
And it's kind of a mix of rock, singer-songwriter, indie, pop music. So we kind of got a little bit of everything.
Go with everything. Well, that's a good thing, actually, because that's what, this way you're pretty guaranteed you're going to get the audience engaged, you know.
Right.
If you just stick with one thing, you're just kind of limiting yourself,
Right.
I think. All right, well, I, again, can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Well, not the last time, but the time before when we did our main interview, it's pretty cold in here today. I brought some heaters with me, but the last time, he was such a trooper. We were outside, and it had to be like 34 degrees. I don't
Yeah,
think
I felt it in my
had
fingers. I was like, ooh.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know it's cold when you see, like, you know,
Your breath.
Yeah, your breath coming out. And we had the fireplace going, but
That's right.
that was definitely trying, I
Yeah.
know. And we can't do that. That was, you know, we did it. We learned not to do it again. And so again, thank you. I want to thank Clay for all his hard work. And hopefully we will be also soon. You can catch us on Instagram. But if you want to find out what's happening with Donna's Happy Hour, you can go to Donna's Happy Hour Facebook. All right, so everyone take care, be well. And we'll see you soon.
Donna's Happy Hour is filmed on location at the Blue Arrow Farm.
It's Donna's Happy Hour, it's Donna's Happy Hour, it's Donna's Happy Hour, it's Donna's Happy Hour. Come on, get happy now, it's Donna's Happy Hour. Come on, get happy now, it's Donna's Happy Hour. Come on, get happy now, it's Donna's Happy Hour. It's Donna's Happy Hour, it's Donna's Happy Hour.